Hi, I'm Michael Thompson. Welcome to the Heart of a Warrior Expedition, the first session. Every man is on a mission. When I look back at my life, I realize I've been on a mission. My marriage, my finances, my children, my relationships. What if we miss something? Not if. We have missed something that has led to a disorientation that also creeps into this naivety that every man suffers from. What if there's more to our story? What if there's more to us? Men are challenged by a lot of things today. A lot of responsibilities, a lot of busyness. Their to-do lists are long. As I look back in my story, I see that there are reasons and there are significant moments when I've been compromised. Honestly, there's times I don't feel prepared and I don't know what to do. Follow us in this chapter, this exploration of what is plaguing men, the symptoms, and even more importantly, the source behind what keeps a man from becoming what he really can be. It's worse than we think, but it can become better than we know. So what is the challenge that you feel like men are facing? I mean, what's the problem with us? Shouldn't we be getting better? Shouldn't we be enjoying this life that God has offered, that He's promised? And yet, there seems to be something really in the way. What do you think that is? What is it that has us in this stuck place? What is it that is the problem?
You know, I don't know if, before I define the problem, I read those words early in the book, and my head is just nodding, yeah, there's a gap. You know, we read all these promises in the Bible of the way life should look, overcoming, more than a conqueror, yet so many of my Christian years, I felt so far away from being that. You know, it was something I was working to, aspiring to, but really only expecting to achieve when I died and went to heaven. So what's going on here? Is the Bible not true, or am I missing something?
Yeah, I think that abundant life that we read about, especially in the verse that we use a lot, John 10:10, the thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy, but I've come that you may have life. We think it's possible for somebody else, but we don't think it's possible for us. And I think when we finally get a glimpse of the hope that we have in Christ, when we can make that transition to believing it's possible and really pushing back some lies that we've believed, things that we've been taught, you know, the wretched sinner, always going to be a screw up, you know, all these messages that have shaped us, shaped a lot of men. We believe those things rather than believing what God says about us. And I think that's a big transition that each of us have to go through, is understanding what God says about us versus what we've believed or bought into that is simply not true. It's like we've talked about so many times, where which is more biblically true? I'm this poor, pathetic sinner saved by grace, or am I a saint who occasionally sins? And we were a sinner, but we have been saved by grace, but now our identity has changed.
Yeah.
We're a new man, new heart, a new perspective, and we have to believe that that's possible. And I don't think most men believe that it's possible.
So one of the problems then, as you've shared, is bad information. You know, believing things that aren't true. Well, you know, how does that accumulate? What do you attest that to?
I think one of the reasons it's so elusive for all of us is that we have so few role models, people that really do live this abundant life, this full life. It's been so lost to most men forever that we just don't have anybody to look to say, that's my role model, that's what I want to be. I want to be like him. Yeah. There's so few of us that have found it.
Well, and how many sermons or motivational speeches have we heard that we get all fired up and it's time to charge the field, only to find out maybe I wasn't given all the information. You know, I'm reading the book, Michael, and it just really hit me hard, that section about mission. And so core, I feel like us men, is we want something to go after. We want a mission to be sent on. But I think you really unpack so well the difference between creating the mission and the mission finding you. And I can just think back of years of starting a small business, construction company, and going out to create my own mission. And it wasn't until I just found this orientation in Christ. You know, you talk so much about orientation. What's an oriented man? It's someone who knows who he is, where he is, and the good that God is up to in his life. But I didn't know those things. And so the mission was about me finding life, going to go out and do something. And without that orientation.
Because that's what we've always heard. You know, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. We're going to do it. We're going to accomplish it. We're going to set that mission.
And that explains, Jim, why we can get stirred up. I mean, you know, the locker room talk of a Sunday morning, or the you're not doing enough, you know, kind of Sunday morning. And we do want to charge the field and participate. You know, we want to make a difference. So there's something in us that wants to be caught up in a bigger mission, but I think you're onto something there where it's, but am I the designer of the mission? You know, so am I running out without my helmet and pads, or without my sword and shield, or without the equipment and the training and the real understanding of what's out there? Because we see men, you know, fight bravely for a day or two, the New Year's resolution kind of thing, and die quickly. You know, it fades. And I think that circles back to the problem. What's the deal with us? You know, so bad information, misdirected motives and hopes. I mean, I love what you said, Blake, we want to participate in something large, but we've taken it upon ourselves, a lot of us, of trying to make it happen, trying to make it large. If it is to be, what verse is that? If it is to be, it's up to me. You know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So, you know, when you think about mission, and I like what you said, Blake, Jay, where does the mission come from if we don't have to craft it or create it on our own?
Yeah, as you were talking about if it's to be, it's up to me, you know, the word courage came to my mind. We want to be courageous.
Yeah.
Because the men that we aspire to be, or the men that we look up to, are courageous men. And we do rush the field, chasing wrong missions. And I think once we settle in, and we'll talk more about that later, once we have that settled heart and we kind of settle in and understand whose story and whose mission it really is,
yeah,
that's when we start to get it.
Well, and you know, before, I just think about these missions I created for myself. I wonder, why did they not go so well? And before I let God tell me who I was or where I was, the good he was up to, here I was trying to prove who I was.
yeah.
I was trying to make my claim on where I was. And I was trying to define the good that I am up to in my life. And that was just a recipe for disaster time and time again.
Right.
It seems like God gives us these desires to be courageous, to be bold, to set the mission, but we don't go to him to help understand what that mission is. You know, all of a sudden, the link stops, and we try to create the mission ourselves.
So we got a collection now of things that contribute to them, things going wrong. We got bad information. We got motives stirred up, but maybe misdirected, misunderstood, miscalculated. Jim, what you said, we have a lack of examples. So many men feel like they're paving a way, that they're trying to figure it out, and here's the key phrase, right? On their own. I mean, how many men suffer from the I'm on my own? We see that in so much of what we get to do day to day and the conversations we get in. Let's leave that for a second. That's the challenge, that's the problem, that's some of the stuff that's wrong. Well, what does a good man look like? Let's try to set that in the center of the conversation. What would be those kind of characteristics? What would that look like for you?
I think it's a man who's completely free. And what I've found in communicating to men, they get on the edge of their seat a little bit when I'll ask this question: what would it be like to live a life with nothing to hide, nothing to prove, and nothing to fear? And when you think about those three things, it would be pretty exciting to live that way.
Yeah, I'm ready to come to the edge of mine.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to live.
Yeah.
But I think the word that sums those three things up is freedom. And it's not necessarily the 65-year-old guy who's free enough to walk around in his neighborhood with his shorts and his high black socks and his...
Because he doesn't care what
'cause he
anybody
doesn't care what anybody thinks.
He's got to that place.
Yeah, that's not the freedom we're talking about. It's
Nothing to hide, nothing to prove, nothing to fear.
nothing to hide, nothing to prove, and nothing
That's
to
a
fear.
picture. That's a good picture.
I was one of those guys got to the edge of his seat and said, that's what's been missing. I've been striving for so long, looking in the future of how can I become a good man, a great man, but having no orientation or coordinates to even know how to get there. But that was it, because I was a man that couldn't look his circumstance in the face without trembling, and either wanting to run, you know, or wanting to prove something. I wasn't free.
I agree. I love the word free. And I also like another word that you used in the book, settled. You know, a man that he doesn't respond out of anger or out of judgment or jealousy or defensiveness quickly. You know, there's always a moment between the stimulus and the response. You know, he's settled in himself. He's not trying to protect some false identity or anything.
And that goes, you said the word earlier, and you just said it again about being oriented. There's something about an orientation that affords you that extra second, that opportunity to assess things while in the flow. And it happens pretty fast. I mean, the pitches come pretty, you know, I'll step into a moment with a daughter and the climate and the environment will change that fast. And I want to be kind. We're talking about what's a good man look like? Kind, patient, understanding, knowing that there's something more going on, having an orientation that there's always more going on, and that my first impulse or my first reaction, like you said, it may not be the most accurate. I mean, that would be a man who's settled, he almost looks like he's taking his time, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's taking the time to step in, to enter in, or to know that, no, this is not my fight, this is not my moment. You know, not have to strive. You said two other coordinates about striving or hiding, you know, something to prove or trembling, you know, being afraid. So you know, what a man isn't, and then what a man is. And all three of those responses, what do you think of, how do you feel when I say that's Christ?
Yeah.
Have you always seen it that way?
No. To me, he was distant. He was far. He was not involved. He was judgmental. He was the ruler, the tough ruler. Not someone who, with open arms, is looking to love and accept and nurture.
Well, I grew up in a church, I think we subscribed to the passivity gospel.
Oh, okay.
Jesus was passive. He was a limp man who just wandered around, and it was to turn the other cheek that was overly taught at Sunday school. So I didn't see him as free necessarily, or strong.
Jay's word courageous.
Or fierce at all.
Yeah.
But
That's a problem.
But that's a problem.
That's a problem.
And how different he looks now that that God's afforded me that orientation, and I see him so differently, because now he is that conquering king that will step into any situation and put things right back in place.
Proverbs 25:2 says, "It's the glory of God to conceal a matter, and it's the glory of kings to seek it out." We want to invite you and your friends to now explore your story. Answer the questions: what happened to me? What's my story? and share that with one another.